Yeah.
Okay, fab. So I'll just talk you through the soul contract reading. So essentially, what it is a soul contract reading is it's going to kind of the essence of your life's purpose. So you'll see that in the chart on the photo. It describes your talents, your karma, and your goals, and then how to kind of apply them in both the earthly and the spiritual callings of your life. And a soul contract reading incorporates elements of the Hebrew alphabet, also Kabbalah and astrology, and it's based on the 22 characters of the Hebrew alphabet, and then obviously the 6, which is why you get the 6-pointed star, which has become known as the Star of David. And the reason for this is that in Hebrew, letters and numbers carry the same sound and symbol. So what happens is when you're kind of born, an incarnating soul chooses what it's going to experience in order to grow. So before baby's born, you'll often hear parents kind of knowing the child's name intuitively. It's really interesting as well. I was naming a friend's baby recently, and they had like 4 different options, and I looked at them and did the charts for each of them, and in each of them there were 3 or 4 numbers that were just the same. Wow. Same numbers, even though they were totally different names. It was like that energy has already been chosen, and that's the child's life lessons that it wants. And when I did mine as well, I was either Faye or Eve Lewis, and it was again the same numbers.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. It's they say it's synchronicities, but yeah, so it's very interesting. So you kind of know that the lessons that the soul knows, the lessons that it wants in this life. And the sound of the name creates the soul contract because it sounds creative, like with the creation myths. And yeah, it carries the energy that the soul will live. And so when the soul embodies the soul contract, that's translated into what's known as a karmic matrix.
Okay.
And this is like a fine kind of cobwebby structure, and that sits on the surface of our bodies and in all of our different energetic fields, auric fields. And what happens is that then radiates out the reality that creates the experiences that are encoded in it. So it's literally just like a set of experiences at a physical and spiritual level that the soul sets out to experience in a lifetime. So if you have a little look at your soul contract, the drawing, so you'll see the soul contract reading there is presented on the Star of David, and the triangle pointing downwards towards the earth.
Yes.
That kind of represents the physical energies in the lifetime.
Okay.
And then the one pointing upwards towards the universe, that represents the spiritual energies. And then each corner of the triangle contains a different aspect. So that's your karma, your talents, and your goals. And people talk about karma as in it's, oh, there was a man, he pushed in front of me in a queue and then he got ran over. It's karma. The karmic aspects are the lessons that your soul has come to learn. So they're not actually punishments. They're just the kind of lessons that you need. And they run throughout your lifetime, and they can be quite intense at first. But as you kind of learn to transmute that karma, it decreases and it ends up becoming a really great strength to your personality. The talent aspect, and this is both in the physical and spiritual, that contains all the kind of latent energies that need to be developed to work through the lessons of the karmic aspect, and then they will then help you achieve the goals as well. And in the goal aspect, the energies act as the kind of incentive in your life. So that's kind of what you're striving for, and they're the kind of things that you may or may not achieve in this lifetime. But as we're kind of moving through our lives, all of the 6 different aspects of the chart run simultaneously. But the physical aspects of the triangle are usually more predominant up to kind of the age of 35 to 40. And then after that, the spiritual triangle becomes much more predominant in a person's life.
Okay.
And when you've got the kind of sum total of all of these 6 aspects, it produces the 7th aspect, and that's the soul destiny or life purpose. And that's what's kind of placed at the center of the star. So for you, your soul destiny is 11-2. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Does that all make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Ah, fab. And I know you've spoken about having something about your name before. I don't know if you've had something similar to this.
I use the is it Caballarian the chart to choose my daughter's name.
Yes.
To check that it would be creative and musical energies surrounding it. And so yeah.
Well, if you'd ever like to look, we can do an overlay reading where we could look at your name and your daughter's.
Oh wow.
And then we can look at the different energies and how you help each other or might hit, a bit of walls. And we can look at, because it'll be your birth name, and then if you've changed your name through marriage or you've changed it or however, you can look at the different frequencies that run.
Okay.
So
it's very interesting as well. I mean, because people have dreams that they have long had dreams, don't they? They've had things they really would love to do or have, and it's interesting to see if that's got anything correlation with this reading. Whether the dreams are conscious or anyway, I'll listen to what you're going to say.
No, it's interesting. We'll see what comes up as well with each of the numbers and how they relate.
Yeah.
And just see what comes back on it. Let's have a look. So the first number that you've got is physical karma. So we'll go through the physical parts first, and that's usually the first part of your life. A lot of the time, most people were kind of like, 0 to 35, 40, they're in the physical because it's about learning to adapt to the world and who you are and figuring yourself out.
Yes.
Before you move into the more spiritual and you've got that sense of things, but some people are very different. There's a boy his name's Harry, he's 21 years old and he does Botox for a living, but he just contacted me on Facebook. I don't even know this boy out of the blue through a message and said, do you do tarot? I said, yes. And he said, oh, I've broken up with a guy, he's my first boyfriend. I was like, yep, got it. And I said, Harry, did you grab our die recently? And he said, yes. And I said, she just wants me to give you a message. And that was all that he wanted.
Wow.
And it was so bizarre, but he stayed in touch, and I feel a bit like his mum at times, but he's so far advanced, even though he doesn't know why. He's just so in tune with things. So yeah, he's 21, he's already buying his first house, and he's so far ahead in the physical side of things that he's already very much moving into spiritual at the moment. So you can never quite tell, but generally as a rule, that's how it goes. So you're 12-3. 12-3, the energy is all about expansion of love and knowledge.
Okay.
So it's a karmic element, which we'll talk about in a minute, but in its positive, it's all about the expansion of knowledge, a thirst for knowledge. It's about seeing the beauty in all things, the teaching and sharing of knowledge, communication. It's about leadership and initiative, balance in life, balanced sexuality, and bringing things out of the depth. It's also very catalytic as a number. It's the star sign associated with this energy is Libra. So again, and it's positive, it's about harmony, romantic, being idealistic, that kind of feeling of togetherness, coming together, balance. But initially in a karmic position, it can be quite unbalanced. It could manifest itself as being quite indecisive or sitting on the fence. And it's a number with a very strong energy in both a positive and negative way. The karmic aspects of this, often people can find that there's an excessive amount of coercion. So there can be many partners or none whatsoever, as opposed to kind of the positive act of love. I don't know. I mean, it's all associated as well with parts of the body. So this is associated with the gallbladder.
Okay.
And dealing with the gall is literally meaning and working with any internal anger and pain. So it can have quite heavily emotional, judgmental energies. I don't know if that work. I mean, I don't know if you relate to that at all. Did you ever get kind of out of balance easily, or?
I think I do get out of balance. Yeah, I think I do get in. I'm very indecisive, and that is a real thing for me.
Yeah.
And rather than sometimes making decisions, I can go round and round, seeing all aspects, and it could be really, it really stopped me moving and doing things. So yeah, that does sound right.
Especially in your kind of youth as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I was quite clear, but then things, I'll see what else comes out. It's interesting what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the indecisions happened. I suppose it's always been there in a way. I can't decide on an answer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It does. I think it's going to be, yeah, I'll see what else you say. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, sit with it as well, because things will kind of maybe come in as well later, but sometimes people with this in life, it can be hard to balance. In life there can be sometimes too much of this or that, and yeah, I don't know, a lot of a lot of the time people with this, especially when they're younger, can be quite shy.
Yes, definitely true. No, absolutely, that really stood in the way of things. Yeah, it's true.
But it's again in the positive though, there is that thirst for learning new things, and people with this energy will kind of internalize and expand it within themselves before they'll go on to share it. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but a lot of people with this, they tend to love reading, and there's that real mothering nurture that comes with this number, and people can kind of see beauty even in the lowest vibrations. I don't know if that relates at all.
Yes, it does. I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. We've also got a 13-4 as well in the chart, so we'll get onto that later, but that's again a very feminine energy. In terms of spirituality as well, I know this isn't a karmic position, but because you're in the sort of second half now, people with a spiritual talent of 12-3 can often use their natural talent for using spirituality. Their intuition and kind of high emotional intelligence is quite a good guide for others who are looking to kind of do that self-development path or to learn more about their own spirituality. So people with this number, particularly when you've transmuted a lot of the karmic and you're in the positive elements of it, it's really nice because the love of helping others can kind of develop and expand and come into its own. So yeah, it's really about kind of helping others with their knowledge and sharing as well. So it's really nice. It's interesting that you do the kind of gong baths and things, and that you're going out, like to the mound without, because it's that generosity of sharing, and yeah, it's about being a very successful spiritual teacher, writer, or communicator.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like to write as well.
Ah, okay.
And I teach children how to play piano intuitively as well. So yeah, so maybe that sounds right.
That's so funny. Dominique, when we were leaving, she was like, "I bet she's a piano teacher." I was like, okay. Yes, that makes sense. I feel that too. And that was just out of the blue, and then we changed the topic of conversation to something else. Yes, she'll be happy to know that. So that's kind of the essence of the 12-3 in the karmic, and then also in its kind of positive as well.
Okay.
But yeah, and then even though it's in the karmic, yeah, the sharing is really good, and particularly like writing, communicating, and helping others are the kind of positive aspects of that. In your physical talents, so you've got 7-7, and sevens are really, it's all about working with and healing the heart. There's kind of a sort of a theme with you in terms of communication. There's a lot of positives around communication and kind of getting to that so that you feel comfortable in that role. Sevens, it's all about coming out into the world and connecting with and catalyzing groups of people into action. So again, in its positive, the energy of the 7 is it's about being adaptable, intellectual and logical.
Mm-hmm.
In the more negative aspects of a 7, it can be quite manipulative, controlling. And the organ associated with the 7 is the left foot. So it can be someone who doesn't necessarily want to move forward. But again, on the positive side, that it's a concrete anchor that can kind of keep people in place and give them that kind of stability and grounding.
Okay.
And it's similar again to the 12-3, which is it's good because when you come in, this is a positive and it's in a talent position, so it will actually help you transmute some of the 12-3 karma, because it's a lot of the time people with 7s when they're younger are quite indecisive again. When you were little, did you ever kind of, sometimes people can put out a bit of a facade into the world?
Yeah, probably. I used to do a bit of a Pollyanna, like everything was fine thing.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and a lot of the time people with 7s, especially when they're younger, there's kind of a hidden part of themselves that they protect, and then more of a, well, like you say, the Pollyanna, a public part as well that you present to the world. People with 7s as well, I don't know, did you ever feel, a lot of the time they struggle to feel really safe to show their real self or feelings?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
That's very typical of 7s. It's about kind of judging, working people out and working when it's okay to feel safe to reveal who you are. Sometimes when in the karmic aspects of the number, especially when younger, there's a difficulty sometimes knowing what's real and what isn't, and that can sometimes create the indecision. And people with 7s to others can often appear in a bit of a dreamland. And it's associated with Gemini, so the lessons of the Gemini, it's to kind of learn to present their true self to people and not the kind of shield. Yeah, and again, all about the need to communicate how you feel, to not hide emotions inside so that people don't really know. Excellent actors. Often you get actors with 7s because a lot of the time people can't read them. People with 7s as well can sometimes have difficulty accepting the dark side of themselves. Sometimes as well, people with 7s can have a feeling that they're quite bad people and it's really buried, so they're not aware of it, but it creates that feeling that it must hide who they really are. However, yours is in a talent position, and when it's in the positive, it's a catalytic energy and it really activates and strengthens the other energies in your chart. It draws people to you. 7s can be the life and soul of a party. They can be very gregarious. And a 7 in a talent position, it's a link that kind of unites. Again, it unites and serves as a means of pushing somebody into like major change and activating that in people. So again, in the positive, it's about finalizing decisions. You can see both sides of situations very clearly and sensitively. In a tarot card, it's a bit like the arbitrator, judge, counselor, and arriving at finality. It's like the Hierophant card. Yeah, and for people with this in a talent position, it's all about having the ability and trust in yourself, knowing that you'll be able to arrive at a finality. So yeah, good at networking, bringing people together, groups of people, but without controlling them, more in a kind of collaborative team effort. And yeah, 7s are people who are very liked usually as well, which is good because you've got in your physical goals. Let me just check that. I've written physical karma here, but it's goals, I think. Physical goals. Yeah, 10-1. 10-1, I've got 2 of these, and in the name Faye, I've got 1-1, so I've got a lot of this energy. Your physical goals is 10-1, and that's all about the manifestation of God or source or the energy, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all to do with the potential manifestation of spirit on the earth plane. And it's positive, it's about being very analytical, meticulous, discriminating in the good sense. In the negative, it can be about being very critical, a bit of a perfectionist and overly mental. People with 10-1s, there's never really an easy route. It's about being a kind of steady, studious worker. You always have to work hard to achieve all aspects, especially if it's in a karmic position. But the energy of the 10-1 is all about the flow of spirit coming into reality. So you're very kind of connected to source and what's going on up there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we both know that you can do that. Out of curiosity, when were you kind of aware of that? That there was.
I think very young age. Childhood. It used to scare me as a child. Scare me a lot. Just to see things, You do as well, don't you?
Oh yeah.
But it used to really scare me back then. But and then I turn my back on it as well. So yeah, it's been a journey. Really, I suppose life is like that, isn't it?
It is. It's people with this number. It's funny because we're very fortunate in other lifetimes. If we haven't transmuted the karma of the 10-1, we could have abused the power of the gifts that kind of come with this.
Mm-hmm.
Or we might not have used them at all. So that connectedness and that source we can sometimes take for granted and think that everybody can understand that and relate to it, and they can't. So it's kind of important to kind of have that gratitude for it, but we also switch it off because it's too much sometimes too.
Do you think people are not capable of doing it, everyone, then? I
think especially if you're like me and you had it very young, you kind of just it's there and it's kind of second nature. But for a lot of people, they have to really work at it to be connected.
Yes.
Because I've seen people with just using pendulums, that's the word, thank you. I was like, pentagram? Just using pendulums, and I've been sat there and it's just been doing its thing. And all these women are like, oh my God, mine's never worked before. It's never done that before. And I'm thinking, what? Why? Why are you in this class? How has that never worked? And it's things you take for granted that other people have to maybe work on. Or knowing that there's someone there and that you're protected and that you're safe.
Yes.
And not knowing why. And I don't know if you've ever been disconnected from that feeling, but it's absolutely horrifying. But yeah, it's all about the flow of spirit coming into reality. So we're complete channels and very connected to whatever's up there, source. And 10-1's fab because it's like the perfect balance of masculine and feminine energies. Sometimes if I'm surging too forward in my masculine, I'm like, oh, and just check back in and move back. You get a lot of gay, bi, lesbians, people with a lot of 10-1 energies as well, which is interesting.
Yes.
And the key strategy to manage the energies of 10-1 is discipline and routine. Yeah, which is probably quite hard for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
It can be okay.
Yeah. It's almost like whenever you're doing something on your spiritual path, you find that there's blocks and obstacles that keep kind of getting in the way from it to distract you a lot of the time with 10-1s.
Yeah, that's true. You have to make your time, don't you, to do your writing your work. Yeah.
I think a lot of the times when people with 10-1s initially having that discipline to like sit and meditate and really keep going at it, it's very, very difficult for people to do that. But yeah, the karmic aspects to work through before coming into a power, a lot of the time it can be a denial of that spirituality or source, God, whatever you want to call it. 10-1s are very overly critical, can be very insecure and prejudiced, a little self-righteous, can be quite judgmental of others. And yeah, in the past life, that kind of real denial of God or source or anything has occurred.
Okay.
And so yeah, so there's a lot of lessons around that, and often they've misused or not used at all the spiritual gifts because it came too easily. So in this lifetime, having that as a goal, especially in the physical, it's about learning responsibility of growth and power. And you're always tempted to leave your path to facilitate and change your goals often. And but in order to have the energies of a 10-1, because it is a very strong energy, your spirit has to make sure that there's a strong mind that's ready for it before you can get the full flow of the 10-1 in the talents.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times, well, especially, where's my notes? When you were younger, did you ever believe that there was did you ever feel like there was a part of you that would totally believe in spirit and everything, and then a part of you that just didn't believe at all?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, yeah. I used to get annoyed with it sometimes. You know, I didn't want to deal with it in a way. I wanted to just switch off, you know, perfectly.
Yeah.
And go and follow escapist, hedonistic kind of routes and things like that. Yeah.
That-
So it's interesting, isn't it?
I think that's all of us. I don't think I've ever met a 10-1 energy that hasn't done that.
Okay.
Completely the same, and can often feel kind of judgments of yourself or of others as well.
Yeah.
A lot of,
Mostly self-directed.
yeah, very.
And that stands in the way of realizing that, yeah, isn't it? Realizing the gifts, I suppose, in a way.
It's about pulling you off that path so that you're forced to then go back to it and learn from it. A lot of people with 10-1 as well can experience abuse, often from adults as a child as well. It's not always physical necessarily, but there can be a lot of different forms of abuse as well, or being unfairly treated or judged, especially as a child by adults.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the positive energy, the 10-1 is the highest, I'll say, godlike energies in numerology. It's the yin yang and the energies of balance. People with 10-1, as you know, make excellent healers. But in order to do that, they have to work on themselves first. It's also all about using those spiritual abilities and knowledge that they acquire in the service of others. It's a complete service number. So the expression of service is actually part of your life's goal. In the physical triangle, if you've got a 10-1 in your, it's actually not a physical number at all. It's another spiritual lesson. There's no physicality to it at all. So yeah, it's all about understanding that and being plugged in. And there's the capacity as well to come into full soul consciousness. So you're completely connected, aware, balanced, and stable. And the goal with the 10-1 is to achieve kind of conscious mastery of yourself in the lifetime.
Okay.
But yeah, very intuitive and yeah, very psychic. And I've put some notes as well just for you to learn a little bit more about that, which I'll send you afterwards. But
thank you.
Yeah, it's a really interesting number.
And
and
really feels that it really resonates all the things you've said.
Yeah, it is really hard, and for 10-1s as well, I've put in management for it as well, because there's a lot you kind of do need to work through as well to help you to kind of embody those energies.
Mm.
Like a lot of people need like healing from abuse, but as you engage more with the process of connecting, you'll find a lot more inner peace.
Yes, yeah.
Especially when you kind of reconnect, you know, knowing that your true nature is actually as a spiritual being.
Mm.
Yeah, and you know, compassion as well for yourself mostly is a very good way of learning to connect with the angelic energies.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the 10-1.
Lovely.
So now we'll kind of move on to the spiritual triangle.
Okay.
So for your spiritual karma, you've got a 6-6, and this is all about creativity and focus. So in its positive, there are 2 numbers which are incredibly grounding, which is great that you've got. The most grounding number that you can possibly have is 8-8, but second to that is 6-6. So it's great for just keeping you grounded on earth. It's a very practical number. It can be possessive, it can be strong-willed. It's a Taurian energy, but in its negative, especially in a karmic position, it can be about being a little bit stubborn, a bit rigid, a bit bloody-minded. And it's associated with your right kidney, so I've got 9s and that's my left kidney, and the 6s are associated with the right, and it's all about the ability to discern and filter and know intuitively if something's your truth.
Mm.
In a karmic expression, sometimes people with this number, depending on where they're at, they can have an abnormal desire to achieve power. It can also mean isolation for some people, addictive tendencies, and a lack of focus and frustration that comes about as a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're in that period of your life where you're doing the hedonistic part and you're denying things and shutting down the spiritual side of things, that's when people with the kind of spiritual karmic 6s kind of encounter some of those challenges quite a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if when you were a little bit younger, you felt frustrated or scattered, angry, and it was kind of hard to complete projects.
Yeah. Certain ones that have been traveling with me through my life. Yeah, there are certain things that have been frustrating.
That's classic 6.
Okay.
It's weird. There's certain crossovers with the 9. The 9 is a lot stronger and tougher in terms of those horrible energies, but the 6 also has some of the familiar patterns, especially around the frustration and anger. And
This is like creatively not feeling quite fulfilled, not quite managing to, quite, yeah.
in the 6s, it's most musicians have 6s.
Really?
Okay. It's like the 10-1s, and a lot of people who are gay having 10-1s. People with 6s 9 times out of 10 tend to be doing something with music.
Right.
So there's and it's a lot about creative expression being blocked, especially when younger, and being so angry and not having an outlet to express yourself.
Yeah.
Dominique's got 3 of them. She's a musician.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's funny, and I used to work in music, and a lot of my ex-partners are musicians, all of them 6s.
Wow.
Very interesting. It's so funny looking at them and the charts, and you're like, this makes so much sense. Because once you've kind of worked through the, transmuting the kind of karma of it, though, you come into the kind of talents of the 6s. People with 6s can actually be very excellent business people, because you've got that rare ability to be very, very creative and focused. So when you find something that you absolutely love and resonate with, and it's your passion, you can probably go full steam ahead with it. Especially if it's helping you to work with that creative side as well.
Yes.
And people with 6s, again, in the positive, it's when you're working on something like that and you are feeling that sense of fulfillment from it, the actions will be quite well planned. And again with the communication side for you, it's a very adaptive energy. It's lovely because you can relate to anybody, or find some sort of commonality, and that's in both the kind of lightness and the darkness as well. And even though the 10-1's quite judgmental, you can sort of accept people for who they are.
Yes, yeah. I don't
and
think I am that judgmental, but maybe I have to think about it. I suppose everyone is to a degree. I don't know, but yeah, I suppose we all are, aren't we? We're always making judgments all the time, aren't we?
But the nice thing as well with it is 10-1s are usually really, really hard on themselves. But with the 6, you've got that ability to see the light and dark in people and just kind of accept that.
Yeah.
And it puts people at ease quite a lot. Particularly with your 7s as well. It's good at being the kind of catalyst for encouraging like communication for people to feel comfortable in their own skin.
Okay, good.
It's really nice actually. And with your 6s as well, it's your mind will always be looking for expansion. Yeah, so the block creativity generally in the 6s tends to come from that wanting to express that soul essence.
Yes, I mean, I just think in a way, you know, that I still think I'm still gonna, you know, there's still more to come out, and that feels exciting, you know. I think there was, for whatever reason, life has just been as it's been for me, but I feel like, yeah, like I was going to say it was a late starter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, interesting.
It's very it is
in many ways. But I don't know if everybody does actually. You think they do?
Not everyone. It's sometimes 6s find it hard to focus on one thing, and that can be sometimes why they feel like they're a bit of a late starter, because they're not sure what to kind of start on to get going on something or where to begin.
That's true. We could do a bit of this, a bit of that, and then there's too many choices, too many. Yeah, it's true.
And especially with the 12-3, it's quite difficult sometimes to just sit and focus. And even your 10-1, sit and focus on. There'll always be obstacles and blocks. So it's part of your chart across quite a lot of it to have that.
Okay.
But with the 6s, when it's hard to focus on one thing, you can sometimes get quite tired as a result. And that's when sometimes with the negative, people with 6s can sometimes have those kind of addiction tendencies because they're frustrated and angry.
Switch off.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it comes in. That can also be with 9s and 10-1s as well. When there's too many things, sometimes you want to like drink to block it out, or however people do it.
Yes,
I found that especially, I'd say my early 20s.
Yeah.
It's only when you're looking back as a retrospective. My best friend died and I was sick of seeing ghosts and spirits, and I kind of knew that was going to happen to him, and I'd written about it 4 years before, how it would happen. And I ended up thinking, God, if I can't stop these horrible things from happening, what's the point of having these powers, abilities, whatever you want to call them? And I was like, I'm done with it, don't want to think about it. But you can't run from it. But yeah, it's
hard.
Yeah, but again, the musician number, it's very creative in the talent position. So yeah, it makes sense that you are a piano teacher, and the fact that you're doing that for other people as well is great, because it's working in line with the areas that you're really good at as well, which is helping people.
And I like to sing.
Fab. Okay. Do you write your own songs?
I do, yeah.
Perfect creative expression then. So the next one you've got is in your spiritual talents, and this is quite rare. You've got 17-8, and this is an energy it's very uncommon. I mean, I've probably done about 80 of these readings, 90 readings at this point, and you're the first person I've ever had with a 17/8. And it's all about speech. It's all about the emphasis of speech. People with this are quite good in the media. It's about the mouth of source and what's coming out, and connecting up and expressing.
Could be
Songs, or when you do the gong baths and you're channeling.
Yes.
The minute I saw that, I was like, yes, this makes sense, and this is why it's quite rare.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
There you go,
And it's in a goal position as well. It's the Hebrew letter Peh. And people with this have the ability to be brilliant public speakers, writers, again, communicators. You've got communication in every single one of your talents, and it's all over your chart. And this ties back in with the 7 as well. Yeah, you've got 17 and 8. 8's good on its own because it's that aspect of grounding, which is nice when you're very up there sometimes, but it's all about captivating an audience with how you communicate. And it's emphasizing that the words that you speak as well. You can heal others through song, through words. And it also gives you a very rare ability to say the things that most people find difficult to say or don't want to say. There can be a bit of a polarity theme in terms of like the master slave attached to this frequency. So sometimes there can be power struggles or a feeling of being suppressed, but in its positive, again, there's some really good self-belief and confidence. People with this make really good promoters of holistic and spiritual services, good teachers. Again, the ability to get on well with people at all levels of societies, and also the ability to see very deeply into people, places, situations. In the negative, the bits that need working through, often people can suffer from sort of suppressed trauma. And in order for that to be healed, it has to, even if it's difficult, be communicated in order to really be healed. And yeah, sometimes it can be hard to kind of find your place with others and to relate in the early days. There can also be sort of unworthiness issues, or finding it difficult and being held back from full expression. And you can sometimes in life attract kind of more subservient roles, especially when you're not, feeling that confident in yourself, or if you've been set back. But yeah, it's highly gifted communicators. And people have great faith in you, kind of intuitively. Yeah, same as the other one actually, about being good in business as your 6s as well. Strong boundaries can be established, and yeah, again, so much about communication. 17/8s generally on a path of initiation to prepare yourself for the service work to the universe and to spirit. So it's about kind of giving yourself the freedom to communicate and to be yourself. And speak your truth as well. You don't have 5 in your chart, but 5s are all about the truth, but it's the same kind of goal that you need to do, which is just allowing yourself and trusting yourself and allowing yourself to speak that. So yeah, it's a great number actually. It can have a hugely transformational impact on individuals and the world by just expressing your thought and wisdom. Yeah, so it's a lovely energy actually, and it's quite a rare one. You're the first person that I've ever come across who has that. And then finally, we've got spiritual goals. And this is 13/4, which is a beautiful energy. It's the love of divine feminine. So it's a spiritual number again, along with 10/1 that you've got. And it's all about being positive, idealistic, spiritual, sensitive, creative. it's the female expression of God, so Sonada energy. It's like attunement with the whole, the realization of spiritual dimension of experiences, and it's compassion and living an ideal. But in the negative, it can be quite self-destructive. There can be escapism. There can be kind of an evasion of your deepest needs, or sometimes a refusal to face your motives, and can often be closed off. And especially in the earlier years, you have to kind of learn to be more soft and loving. Often, I don't know, in childhood, how was your relationship with your mother?
I mean, I love my mum. She loves me. But I think I felt quite put down by her and quite scared. Because she was very critical of herself, I guess, but she was very, not very nurtured.
Yeah. That's often with 13/4s. That there's often something like that with the mother. That often you feel like even though you loved each other, they didn't necessarily get you or weren't really there for you in the way that you needed emotionally.
Yeah, I think she just wasn't able to be because she wasn't there for herself either. I don't want to say anything negative about her
No.
because things have really, improved. So, and also, we all make mistakes, don't we?
Absolutely. But it tends to be, when you're much, much younger as well.
Yeah.
And it is hard, obviously, if they haven't had it there's no help really available, is there?
No.
But that's the kind of energy that often with 13/4s in this position, it's kind of when you're healing yourself, you'll probably help her to heal just by doing that work on yourself.
Yes.
She'll get the benefit from that. You help clear your kind of ancestral line.
Yes, I think that's definitely happened.
It's lovely too because you've got both a 10/1 and also a 13/4 energy in your chart. So the 13/4 is the perfect complement to the 10/1. So it's the perfect balancing of masculine and feminine energies.
Okay.
It's really good. And the kind of higher spiritual goal with the 13/4 is to bring that kind of spirituality into everything that you do in the world. People who truly embody this energy can kind of offer the total love in a role as a teacher, counselor, spiritual leader, or healer. It's quite a passive energy at times, so you might not necessarily go into anything where you're doing that professionally, but it's a really beautiful way of being like an anchor or rock for people around you and supporting that unconditional love. And it's about you being that kind of mother to people that find you, and you'll often probably attract people that need your love and support.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that resonates or if you found that.
Yes, with the people needing support. I expect, yes, I mean, yeah. I think because sometimes, there's other aspects. People sort of have wanted too much from me, and I've had to work out how much. It's been difficult for me to get the boundaries down because of guilt or whatever. When people really need something. So that's been something, for me to work with.
Yeah, having those kind of boundaries and making sure you're looking after yourself as well.
Because people have to take care of themselves, don't they, as well? But some people just don't know how to, and that's really difficult.
And you kind of want to help them, but
yeah.
It's a very 13/4 trait, and that nurturing energy. Yeah, even though it's a soft code, the 13/4 is an incredibly powerful frequency, and it's that divine feminine vibration and the Christ consciousness again. Similar to the 10/1, which is pure Archangel Michael service energy. So the very, very strong energies Yeah, I've put some more notes down as well about it, because it's not in your soul destiny, but because it's in a spiritual goal position, it will tie into that.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the time there's that question, why am I here? And it's a really high frequency. But it's, yeah, it's all about kind of being that divine mother and sharing that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Lovely.
And then finally you've got, it's, yeah, unconditional love and sharing those frequencies. But finally, I guess, kind of spirit soul destiny is 11-2, and that's all about assimilation and structure. So when it's positive, it's about love, personal values, harmony, giving and taking, sharing, and generosity of spirit. But the negative aspect of this frequencies can be quite self-indulgent. Some people with this can be quite greedy or have emotional demands. And 11-2s can often use an inhibition of affection sometimes to, almost as a punishment for people. 11-2s they're an interesting frequency. They're about life to death, both physically and spiritually. There can be an inability sometimes to experience balance in your life experiences. And sometimes people with 11-2s can wear dysfunctional patterns as their own. They're not always discerning as to what they assimilate. So you can often get people with quite depressive behavior. And there can be a dependency on others as well, due to a need for structure in their life, because sometimes they feel like they can't do it on their own. And then they might feel like they're a bit immobile or they're underachieving. But in the position that you've got it as your soul destiny's position, and this is, what you're striving for when you work through enough of all of the other numbers, the goal is with this is to create a structure of truth. And that could be a physical construct like a business or a building, or it could be a philosophy of living or a system of healing. But it just needs to be, it just needs to relate to you and what you need. And when you've kind of got that and you're living by that, that'll bring in the positive aspects of the frequency. People with 11-2s are, sometimes they're dyslexic, but they're very highly intelligent people. A lot of the people I work with 11-2s, they found it hard at school. They would sometimes get lost learning new things. And it's not because they don't pick it up and that they're not smart, because it's the complete opposite of that. But at times they realized they were really, really smart, and then just couldn't get it as well. And that's because they really need to work on something that isn't the mainstream way of doing things. It's a way of making sense for themselves with the information they're being given. Some of the smartest people I know are 11-2s, and a lot of them have dyslexia, or a lot of them have had a slow start where they've been very frustrated, but whenever they've got it, they've just flown. But it's very tough initially, I think, sometimes for people with 11-2s. And they can often feel quite lost in life when they're younger. I don't know if any of that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yes.
But it's a really, really good, it's a really powerful number, and especially with everything that you've got, it's kind of, you're very open to different ideas and concepts, so you can sift through things, know what isn't right, what isn't true, and you can create a solid truth for yourself.
Yes.
Which is quite rare for a lot of people. So yeah, and once you've kind of done that, then and you have that structure of truth, it's about then going and creating things in your life that you can live by, that make sense for you.
Yes, yeah.
So that's your kind of soul contract reading.
Oh, thank you, Faye.
No, it's okay. I realize there's a lot of information, so I don't want to go into too much depth, but I have made a lot more notes with more information, so if you want to sit and read a little bit more, yeah, it's much longer in the notes. I've just kind of given you the essence of each of the energies.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
it's been really interesting. It started off and I kind of felt like a bit down about what not down, but like a bit flat, with what you were saying initially. Like I don't know what it was that you were saying. It's I don't know what it was that you were saying. But as it's gone round, it's really made sense. And also it's really sort of inspired me to write and do
Good.
songs, because I love doing that as well. And it's just having, letting it all flow through. And it's like that kind of Tibetan, I don't know who he is, the Chinese guy that comes through and I play the gongs.
Yeah.
He just comes, I just turn into this bloke and just play, and it's lovely.
It's good.
So
Yeah,
nice
you've
to
got
come through.
such a channel, and it is all about that creative expression for you, whether it's
Yeah.
writing, singing, and helping other people too.
Yes, and I think it's just allowing it and not sort of judging myself and thinking, oh God, you're too old, or you're this, that, and the other, and just think, no, we're just, children of the universe, aren't we? We can just keep on doing it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and
It's
you'll always have
amazing.
that thirst and expansion for knowledge as well. That's just who you are, so it's going to continue. And
Even when I'm 99?
oh, easily. When I saw your chart, I was like, I didn't think you were 50.
Oh,
No, honestly, because I was like, well, she's got a lovely house. She's not much older than me. How's she done that? And then I was like, oh, okay, she's a lot, like 15 years above you. I was like, okay. No, yeah, you'll always keep finding new things and have that thirst. So
it's lovely. Thank you.
no problem. I'll send you the recording, and I'll send you all the notes as well.
Yes.
So
And
you've
do you
got.
do psychic readings as well then?
I do a lot of divine healing.
Okay.
I love doing divine healing, and it's all very intuitive channeling, and we go through different charts. So we clear blocks, sabotages, past life traumas, deaths. It can be anything.
Okay.
The shock and trauma healing. I've got I've done like 4 different levels now. The final one is level 5, and it's like this thick, my lever arch file with different charts. And I'll channel things through as well. So if you'd ever like to do divine healing, I'm again more than happy. We could do a swap.
Yeah, well, if you're happy, that'd be great. Yeah, lovely. I mean, it's been so much to take in tonight, but it feels really inspiring. I really appreciate it. I know you've been at work and you're tired, aren't you?
Oh no, it's fine. And yeah, I mean, your gong baths are fab. I love them. So like, thank you as well. But if you do ever want divine healing, let me know. It's very, very good, and it does help.
I definitely want it.
Yeah, let's do it then. Well, we'll work out some times after next week. I'll have a lot more time on my hands, so we can book you in for a session anytime you'd like, and we can do it via Zoom. You're welcome to come around, whatever's easiest for you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Faye. It's lovely. It's a lot to take in. I'm just going to go and just process it now.
Absolutely. I'll send you all the notes too, so you can read it in your own time. And if you would like to read a little bit more on the numbers and things, let me know, and I'll send you. There's lots of different books you can get.
Okay.
You can buy one on your Kindle. I think it's like £4 or £5, and the guy who wrote it I trained with, Nicholas.
What's it called?
It's called Your Soul Contract Decoded.
Okay.
And yeah, he trained me, and we can also do overlays or anything like that. So it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I think I know a few people who I'll send you away.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Lovely. But I'll send you all that through, and yeah, keep in touch. And whenever you want a session, just let me know.
Okay. Thanks, Faye.
No, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Good night.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.